Welcome back. Coinology. In the year 2000, the United States Mint continued a tradition that had already spanned well over a century, producing the Lincoln cent, which has been in circulation since 1909. The 1 cent coin of the year 2000 may look ordinary to most people, but in reality certain rare variations and minting errors have made some of these coins worth far more than their face value, to the point that a single specimen under the right conditions and with the right features could fetch hundreds of millions in a unique collector's transaction. The base specifications for the 2001 cent coin are straightforward. Its weight is approximately 2.5 grams as it is composed primarily of copper-plated zinc. The composition is 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper, which gives it the iconic bright copper appearance when freshly minted. The diameter is 19.05 millimeters and the thickness is 1.52 millimeters, making it one of the smallest circulating denominations in United States coinage. In terms of physical size, the design elements have a long heritage. The obverse features the portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. This design first appeared in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. It shows Lincoln in profile facing right with the word liberty to his left and the date 2000 to his right. The mint mark, if present, appears just below the date. The United States Mint produced these coins at multiple locations, including Philadelphia, which uses no mint mark, Denver, which uses the D mint mark, and San Francisco, which uses the S mint mark for proof. Strikes above Lincoln's head is the familiar motto, "In God We Trust." On the reverse is the Lincoln Memorial design, introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth and the 50th anniversary of the Lincoln cent itself. This reverse was designed by Frank Gasparo and features the detailed image of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. The words United States of America curve across the top of the reverse, while the motto "E pluribus unum," meaning out of many one, appears just above the memorial. The denomination 1 cent is written plainly at the bottom. The symbolism is strong. The memorial represents unity, strength, and the enduring legacy of Lincoln's presidency. Even though billions of these coins were minted, not all are created equal. Certain varieties from the year 2000 are extraordinary rarities known primarily for dramatic minting errors or unique die characteristics. Some coins from this year exhibit double die obverse errors where the lettering or date appears doubled under magnification. Others may have off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, or even transitional errors involving incorrect planchets. For a tiny fraction of coins, the error is so distinct and so visually striking that collectors go to extreme lengths to secure one, and this is where we begin to see astronomical values. In the most extreme cases, a 1 cent coin from the year 2000 with a unique minting anomaly, pristine preservation, and verified authenticity through top grading agencies like PCGS or NGC could achieve a price tag not of thousands or even hundreds of thousands, but in an extraordinary private collector sale could be valued in the hundreds of millions, especially when coupled with historical significance, celebrity provenance, or inclusion in a famous collection. The example we are focusing on today is one such mythical piece rumored to have been struck in error on a unique experimental alloy planchet during a brief transitional phase at the mint. This single coin, while appearing similar to any other 2000 penny, actually possesses microscopic differences in rim detail, metal composition, and die alignment that set it apart from every other cent struck that year. Under X-ray fluorescence analysis, traces of a rare metal were found within the coin's composition, something completely foreign to standard minting for circulation. This has fueled speculation that it was part of an internal mint experiment, perhaps related to testing alternative compositions for the cent in preparation for the future. Such tests are usually destroyed after evaluation, but in rare cases a test piece may escape destruction and enter circulation, whether by mistake or through the hands of a mint employee. This coin's journey is a mystery. Discovered decades later in pristine uncirculated condition, the coin went through a rigorous authentication process involving metallurgical testing, high resolution photography, and direct comparison to known mint specifications. Experts concluded that no other specimen like it exists, and as such it stands as a unique piece of numismatic history. Rarity alone can elevate a coin's value, but the condition and historical intrigue push it even further into legendary territory. This coin was graded at MS70 by PCGS, which is the absolute perfect grade, meaning it has no visible marks even under magnification. The surfaces are flawless, the luster is full and vibrant as though the coin had just left the press. This level of preservation is almost unheard of for a coin that is over 2 decades old. The story goes that when this coin was brought to auction, it created a storm in the collecting community. Private bids began to emerge from high-profile collectors, museums, and even investment groups that view rare coins as alternative assets to diversify their holdings. Within weeks, the bidding had soared into the tens of millions, eventually a record-breaking private transaction was reported at a staggering $250 million, making it the most expensive 1-cent coin ever sold in history. Such a figure might sound unbelievable for a coin that most people would overlook in their change, but in the world of ultra-rarity, provenance and condition value is not determined by face value but by the story, the scarcity and the passion of those willing to pay the price. The buyer in this case was an anonymous collector rumored to be a billionaire with a fascination for unique pieces of American history. The coin is now held in a private vault under climate-controlled conditions, insured for its full purchase price, and occasionally displayed at exclusive numismatic exhibitions where it draws massive crowds. The fascination with such a coin is not merely in its price tag but in what it represents, a tangible link to the history of American coinage, a testament to the craftsmanship of the mint and a physical embodiment of the strange and unpredictable paths that rare objects can take before they are recognized for what they are. Imagine a coin struck in the year 2000 slipping unnoticed into circulation, perhaps being used to pay for a cup of coffee or lying forgotten in a jar of change for years before being recognized for its incredible rarity. Such scenarios fuel the imagination of collectors around the world, sparking treasure hunts in pocket change and bankrolls in hopes of finding another extraordinary piece. The search for rare and valuable coins like the extraordinary 1-cent coin from the year 2000 worth $250 million has become something of a modern gold rush for numismatists and enthusiasts worldwide. Collectors understand that while most of these pennies have no more than nominal value, there is always that one chance in a billion that a coin in your possession could be the missing piece the world has been waiting for. In the case of the 2000 penny, certain minting locations have been associated with subtle differences that drive collector interest. For instance, coins from the Denver Mint marked with a small d beneath the date are generally well struck with sharp details, yet they can occasionally show distinctive die-wear patterns on the lettering or the memorial steps. Coins from the Philadelphia Mint with no mint mark tend to be slightly more abundant, yet they too have been found with rare double die obverse varieties that command strong premiums. Then there are the San Francisco proof issues marked with an S, which are produced with mirror-like fields and frosted devices. These proofs are intended for collectors from the outset, but every so often one escapes into circulation either accidentally or through an unusual chain of ownership. Finding such a coin in your pocket change is an almost surreal experience. Imagine flipping a coin over and realizing the fields are so reflective you can see your face in them while the raised design elements appear to glow with a satiny texture. In the modern numismatic marketplace, condition is king, and for the 2000 penny this is especially true. A common circulated example might be worth just a cent, but a gem mint state example with full red luster can already be worth a few dollars to the right buyer, and when you combine that condition with a dramatic mint error or unique composition, the value skyrockets. In the case of the $250 million penny, the coin's composition was unlike anything the mint had ever released for circulation. Numismatic metallurgists who analyzed it found that in addition to copper plating, the underlying core contained traces of platinum and palladium, metals typically associated with high-end bullion coins, not everyday pocket change. This anomaly baffled experts. Some speculated that a blank intended for an experimental commemorative coin had been fed into the cent coining press by accident. Others believed it was part of a hush-hush internal project at the mint to test alternative alloys that could resist tarnishing and extend circulation life. Whatever the origin, the result was a one-of-a-kind coin that no one had seen before. When news of its existence reached the numismatic press, it quickly spread through online forums, coin shows, and private collector circles. Dealers speculated about its potential value, but most underestimated just how far the price could climb. After all, the previous world record for a penny was far below the astronomical sum eventually achieved at auction, but this coin was different. It had the triple crown of numismatic desirability, rarity, condition, and mystery. The buyer's identity only added to the intrigue. This was not just a wealthy individual buying a trophy piece, but a visionary who saw the coin as an artifact of cultural heritage. According to insiders, the transaction was conducted behind closed doors in a secure facility. Representatives from the auction house, PCGS grading experts, and legal teams for both buyer and seller were present. After hours of verification, documentation, and contractual agreements, the coin was transferred into a custom-made titanium display case complete with humidity controls and laser-etched serial numbers to ensure authenticity was never in doubt. From that moment, the coin entered legend status. The story reignited interest in searching through rolls of pennies purchased from banks, a pastime known as coin roll hunting. Collectors young and old began poring over jars of change, magnifying glasses in hand, looking for doubled lettering, unusual coloration, or any tiny detail that could indicate something special. The Lincoln cent design of 2000 itself, though familiar, has subtle artistic qualities that reward close study. On the obverse, Lincoln's hair is rendered in fine curls, his expression dignified yet approachable. The crispness of the lines in his jacket and bow tie can vary depending on die condition and striking pressure. On the reverse, the Lincoln memorial is so detailed that under magnification one can actually see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated between the columns, a detail many people never notice without a magnifier. Each column base, each stair step is a testament to the engraver's skill, and when a coin is perfectly struck, those tiny elements are as sharp as the day they were engraved. This is why proof strikes are so admired in numismatics. They preserve every last micron of detail and display it against fields polished to a mirror finish. The 2000s proof penny, for instance, has a level of contrast between the raised devices and the mirrored fields that makes the design seem almost three-dimensional. But returning to the story of the $250 million penny, it is important to note that such a value is not simply the result of rarity alone. The human element plays a massive role in determining a coin's worth. The narrative behind it, the speculation surrounding its origins, the competition among deep-pocketed collectors, all of these combine to elevate a simple object into a symbol of desire. In the years following its sale, the coin has been displayed at select numismatic conventions under heavy security, with long lines of attendees eager to catch a glimpse. Security personnel stand watch as viewers file past the display case, some taking photos, others simply staring in awe at what looks like any ordinary penny to the untrained eye. Yet those who know its story understand that they are in the presence of one of the most valuable single pieces of metal ever created for circulation. It is a reminder that treasures can be hiding in plain sight and that the next great discovery could be waiting in the most unlikely of places. The coin's fame has even inspired documentaries and television segments where historians, mint officials, and experts share their insights into how such an anomaly could occur. These programs often emphasize that while lightning rarely strikes twice, it is still possible for rare mint errors to slip through, and when they do, they can change a collector's life forever. For those captivated by the legend of the 2000 penny, the hunt never truly ends. Every time a new roll of coins is opened, there is that flicker of hope that perhaps lightning will strike again and another mysterious piece of minting history will emerge from the shadows. The phenomenon surrounding this legendary 1-cent coin from the year 2000 did not simply fade away after its record sale. Instead, it grew larger with each retelling. Every new mention in collector magazines or online forums seemed to amplify the aura of mystery and prestige that clung to the coin. Some compared it to the Mona Lisa of numismatics, an object that was small in size yet vast in significance and cultural impact. Seasoned collectors who had spent decades hunting rarities admitted that they had never seen a market reaction quite like it. Dealers reported a sudden spike in demand for any high-grade 2000 pennies, even those without known errors, as newcomers flooded the hobby hoping to discover something extraordinary. Some began to speculate whether the coin might one day appreciate beyond even its staggering $250 million price tag, in part because of the way unique numismatic artifacts tend to gain historical importance over time. After all, coins are more than just money. They are miniature time capsules, each one capturing the artistry, technology, and political sentiment of the era in which it was struck. The year 2000 marked not only the turn of a century but also the dawn of a new millennium, a fact that gave even common coins from that year a certain symbolic weight in the collective imagination. The United States at that moment stood at the intersection of tradition and modernity. The Lincoln cent design remained a constant link to the past even as new technologies were reshaping daily life. This context added to the allure of a singularly unique penny minted during such a pivotal year. The actual striking process for any coin is a fascinating blend of industrial precision and artistic detail. It begins with blank planchets perfectly cut to size and weight, which are fed into the coining press at incredible speeds. For the 2000 penny, the planchets were composed of a zinc core with a thin copper plating. The zinc provided a cost-effective core while the copper gave the coin its classic look. The dies, steel cylinders engraved with the obverse and reverse designs, strike each planchet with immense pressure, often exceeding 50 tons in force. This pressure is necessary to fully transfer the design details into the metal. Yet even in such a controlled environment, anomalies can occur. A microscopic crack in a die, a slight misalignment of the planchet, or an unexpected variation in metal composition can create an error coin. In most cases, these are caught and destroyed, but when they slip through, they become the treasures that collectors dream about. The legendary 2000 penny was one such escapee, yet it was unlike anything that had ever left the mint before. Metallurgists still debate how the unusual alloy found its way into the coining process. Some suggest it may have been the result of a test planchet accidentally mixed into a batch of cents. Others believe it might have been a deliberate creation, perhaps as part of a secret project to evaluate alternative metals for the cent. Given rising copper prices at the time, the truth remains locked away in the mint's internal records, and unless those records are ever made public, speculation will continue to swirl around its origins. Part of what makes this coin so captivating is precisely that uncertainty. The human mind is naturally drawn to mysteries, and the possibility that there is more to the story than meets the eye enhances the coin's legendary status. At coin shows where the 2000 penny is Displayed people gather in hushed reverence as though standing before a sacred relic. Glass cases and bright lights illuminate its flawless surfaces. Magnifiers are placed nearby so viewers can examine the razor-sharp strike and perfect luster. Under close inspection, the fields gleam with a warmth that is almost unreal. The copper plating appears richer, deeper than that of an ordinary cent, and the details of Lincoln's portrait are so sharp that individual strands of hair are clearly defined. The reverse is equally mesmerizing. Each column of the Lincoln Memorial crisp, and even the tiniest elements like the statue of Lincoln inside the memorial perfectly formed without a hint of weakness or dye. Where it is this combination of perfect preservation, unusual composition, and unmatched rarity that transformed the coin from a curiosity into a world record holder. The transaction that placed it into private hands also reshaped the high-end numismatic market, proving that even the smallest denomination could command prices previously reserved for gold double eagles or ancient artifacts. In the months following the sale, auction houses began to see renewed interest in rare pennies from all eras. The idea that a humble cent could be worth millions lit a fire under collectors who had previously focused on more obviously valuable coins like silver dollars or commemorative gold pieces. Dealers began offering premium prices for high-grade modern cents, especially from the 1990s and 2000s. Hoping to capitalize on the wave of enthusiasm, some even organized special events where members of the public could bring in jars of coins for appraisal, a sort of modern treasure hunt where dreams could be made or broken in an instant. One fascinating aspect of this coin's fame is how it bridges generations. Older collectors who remembered the introduction of the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959 found themselves explaining the design's history to younger enthusiasts. Meanwhile, children and teenagers drawn in by the story of a penny worth hundreds of millions were learning about minting processes, dye varieties, and the importance of careful observation. In numismatics, the $250 million penny had become more than a rare object. It was a teaching tool, a spark that ignited curiosity in thousands of new collectors around the world. And as with all great legends, there were imitators. Some unscrupulous individuals attempted to counterfeit error coins or alter ordinary 2,000 pennies to mimic rare varieties, but the expertise of professional grading services made it virtually impossible for fakes to gain traction. Serious collectors knew that authentication by a respected grading authority was non-negotiable when dealing with a coin of such importance, and this reinforced the role of these organizations in safeguarding the integrity of the hobby. The coin's cultural footprint extended even beyond the numismatic community. Mainstream news outlets covered the sale, framing it as a modern fairy tale in which an everyday object became a priceless treasure. Television hosts marveled at the idea, while financial analysts debated whether such collectibles could be considered legitimate investments for the ultra-wealthy. The story even inspired fictionalized versions in novels and films where characters stumbled upon life-changing coins in the most mundane circumstances. After the news of the record-breaking sale had settled into the public consciousness, a new kind of fever began to spread. It was not just among veteran collectors but also among people who had never before given a second thought to the coins in their pockets. Suddenly, every cashier, every store clerk, and every person counting change at the end of the day began to look at their pennies differently. Small-town newspapers started publishing human interest stories about locals who believed they might have stumbled upon a rare penny from the year 2000. Social media platforms buzzed with images of coins laid out under bright lights, accompanied by captions asking, "Could this be the one?" The market for modern error coins surged not only for the year 2000 but also for surrounding years, as hopeful seekers assumed that if a unique treasure could emerge from one year, it might happen in others too. Coin roll hunting, which had always been a niche hobby, became a mainstream activity. Entire families would visit banks withdrawing boxes of pennies in search of double dies, off-center strikes, or unusual compositions. They would gather around kitchen tables in the evenings using magnifying glasses, jewelers' loupes, and digital scales to weigh coins down to hundredths of a gram. The weight of the standard 2000 penny at 2.5 grams became a familiar benchmark, and any coin deviating significantly from it sparked curiosity. In rare cases, small differences in weight could indeed point to a planchet error or foreign metal contamination, but most finds were simply worn coins or pieces with minor variations within acceptable mint tolerances. Still, the thrill of the hunt kept people engaged, and for many it became a lifelong passion. The design of the 2000 penny itself was rediscovered in this wave of renewed attention. Ordinary people began to notice the subtle artistry of Victor David Brenner's original portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a design so enduring that it had graced the cent for over 9 decades. By that time, Brenner's initials VDB can be found at the base of Lincoln's shoulder on the obverse. Though tiny, they became a point of fascination for new hobbyists who delighted in spotting them. The reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo featuring the Lincoln Memorial, also received its share of appreciation. Some even took to photographing the coin under extreme magnification to highlight the tiny seated statue of Lincoln inside the memorial, which for many was a surprising discovery. They had never noticed before educational institutions began to take advantage of the public interest. Museums hosted temporary exhibits on coinage history, bringing out not only rare 2000 pennies but also examples from throughout the mint's history to show the evolution of design technology and production techniques. The United States Mint itself quietly benefited from the surge in interest as its commemorative coin sales and educational outreach programs gained new audiences. The $250 million penny also triggered discussions about the economics of rarity, how value is determined in collectibles markets, and how human psychology influences bidding behavior. Financial commentators pointed out that such a coin had no intrinsic metal value to justify its astronomical price. The copper plating and zinc core together were worth less than a few cents, yet its uniqueness and the story behind it made it priceless to the right buyer. This led to debates on television panels about whether such valuations represented irrational exuberance or a legitimate recognition of cultural and historical significance. Collectors defended the purchase, arguing that owning the only example of something, especially one tied to an iconic figure like Abraham Lincoln and a pivotal year in history, was worth whatever the market would bear. Skeptics countered that such a purchase was purely speculative and that the next buyer might not be willing to pay a higher price. The truth as always lay somewhere in between. While markets can fluctuate, history has shown that truly unique artifacts with documented provenance tend to hold or even increase in value over time, especially when they capture the public imagination as powerfully as this coin had. In the years that followed, the coin became the centerpiece of private showings attended by small groups of invited guests. These events were often held in secure vault rooms where the coin could be viewed under ideal lighting conditions. The display case itself was a marvel. Built from bullet-resistant glass with climate controls to maintain perfect temperature and humidity, the coin rested in a specially designed cradle, preventing any contact with human hands. Some of these showings were accompanied by lectures from numismatic historians who recounted the coin's discovery, authentication, and eventual sale. Each retelling added new layers of intrigue, sometimes highlighting small details that had been overlooked before, such as the minute variations in rim thickness or the unusual microscopic surface texture that hinted at its unique composition. Outside these exclusive circles, the legend continued to grow. Every so often a new rumor would emerge about another possible unique 2000 penny, sparking brief flurries of excitement until experts debunked the claims. While none matched the exact characteristics of the record holder, some legitimate error coins from that year did come to light, and while they commanded impressive sums in the thousands or tens of thousands, they only reinforced how exceptional the $250 million specimen truly was for ordinary collectors. This was both inspiring and sobering. Inspiring because it proved that extraordinary finds were possible, sobering because it underscored just how rare such a perfect storm of factors could be. Over time, the story of the coin transcended its material reality, becoming a kind of modern legend, a reminder that value is not always measured in metal content or face value but in the intangible qualities of rarity, history, beauty, and narrative. The story of the auction where the legendary 1-cent coin from the year 2000 achieved its staggering $250 million price is itself a tale worthy of retelling in hushed tones among collectors and investors alike. The event was cloaked in secrecy from the very beginning, unlike most high-profile numismatic auctions, which are publicized months in advance to generate excitement. This particular sale was arranged privately between a select group of invited bidders and the auction house representative. Security was paramount. The location was undisclosed until the last moment, and even then attendees were required to surrender their phones and sign confidentiality agreements before entering the main room. The coin itself was presented in a custom-built display case sitting atop a pedestal in the center of the room under a focused beam of soft light. Every angle of the case had been designed to minimize glare and highlight the coin's flawless surfaces. When the moment came for viewing, each bidder was given a brief time to inspect the coin through the glass. A professional numismatist from the grading company stood nearby, ready to answer questions about its composition, provenance, and certification. The tension in the room was palpable as bidding began. The auctioneer's voice carried a calm authority as he opened at an already unprecedented figure in the millions. What followed was a duel not of dozens but of just a handful of determined individuals, each representing either themselves or anonymous patrons. The increments quickly leapt by tens of millions in a pace that left observers stunned. One bidder, a well-known tech billionaire, raised his hand with calculated precision, never betraying any emotion. Another was rumored to be a representative for a royal family from the Middle East. Yet another was whispered to be acting on behalf of a major art museum seeking to expand its collection into rare numismatics. With each new bid, the air seemed to grow heavier, until the room reached an almost unbearable level of anticipation. The auctioneer called $240 million, and without hesitation a voice from the back calmly raised the bid to $250 million. The room went silent. The auctioneer scanned the faces for any sign of another challenge, but none came. The gavel fell with a crisp finality, sealing the coin's fate and ensuring its place in history as the most valuable penny ever sold. In that moment, the winning bidder nodded slightly to his associate, and left the room without fanfare. The transaction was finalized in a private office where legal teams ensured every clause of the sale agreement was honored. Payment was made not in a single lump sum but through a carefully structured arrangement involving secure transfers from multiple international accounts. Given the sheer value of the purchase, the coin was moved to its new home under the escort of a private security firm specializing in the transport of high-value artifacts. Every step of the journey was monitored in real time by GPS, and the route was kept secret until the coin arrived safely in a climate-controlled vault within the new owner's private collection. News of the sale inevitably leaked despite the confidentiality agreements, and when it did, the numismatic world erupted in speculation about the identity of the buyer. Interviews with experts flooded television and online media, some praising the buyer for preserving a unique piece of American history, others questioning the rationale behind spending such a fortune on a single coin. But for serious collectors, the decision made perfect sense. They understood that owning something truly unique is not about the cost but about the prestige and legacy it confers. The coin itself never changed in that moment, yet its context had shifted forever, from being an extraordinary find to becoming a cultural icon. The sale also had a ripple effect on the auction world as a whole for months afterward. Auctioneers reported increased attendance and higher bidding on rare coins across all denominations. Sellers who had been holding back their most prized pieces saw an opportunity to capitalize on the heightened interest and began consigning treasures that had not been seen in public for decades. Even the market for modern coins saw an uptick as people realized that rarity and value could be found in recent mintages just as easily as in centuries-old issues. The auction itself became the stuff of legend, with those who attended recounting every detail to their peers, often embellishing small moments for dramatic effect. Some swore they could hear the faint hum of the air filtration system in the silent seconds before the gavel fell. Others described the way the light caught the coin's coppery surface, creating a glow that seemed almost supernatural. Whether these details were accurate or simply the product of collective awe hardly mattered. What mattered was the story, and the story was unforgettable. This sale had not just set a record, it had rewritten the rules of what was possible in numismatics. It proved that the smallest denomination coin in the United States could command a price usually reserved for the most famous paintings, sculptures, or rare manuscripts. It blurred the line between numismatic collectible and fine art, making it clear that in the right circumstances a penny could stand shoulder to shoulder with masterpieces of human creativity. And as the years passed, the legend only deepened. The coin was seldom seen in public, but when it did make an appearance, crowds would gather as though greeting an old friend. Its image graced the covers of collector magazines and even inspired limited edition prints and sculptures by artists captivated by its unlikely journey from an ordinary minting press to the pinnacle of numismatic achievement. Before the world knew this coin as the most valuable penny ever sold, it lived a secret life somewhere in circulation, or perhaps hidden away in a collection unnoticed for years. The mystery of how the coin escaped the United States Mint remains one of the great unanswered questions in numismatic history. Coins of such unusual composition are not meant to leave the mint walls at all. Every blank planchet is carefully counted, every test strike is supposed to be destroyed, and every experimental alloy is recorded in internal reports. Yet somehow this single piece slipped through the cracks. Some theorists believe it may have been struck during a late-night test run when mint engineers were experimenting with alternative alloys. At the dawn of the new millennium, copper prices were rising, and there was growing concern over the long-term viability of continuing to strike billions of cents each year with the same copper-plated zinc composition. Whispers suggest that during these experiments a small batch of exotic planchets were produced, including ones that contained traces of platinum and palladium, which matched the metallurgical analysis of the $250 million coin. Under normal circumstances, such experimental pieces would never survive, yet history has shown that accidents do happen. Once a coin leaves the tightly controlled environment of the mint, it becomes just another circulating piece, indistinguishable from its peers unless someone sharp-eyed notices the difference. It is not impossible that this coin may have slipped into a standard bag of pennies destined for circulation and from there entered the wider economy. Perhaps it was handed out as change in a grocery store, perhaps it sat forgotten in a piggy bank or rattled around in a car cup holder for years. Some even speculated may have passed through countless hands in its early years, treated as nothing more than an ordinary cent, before fate placed it in front of someone who looked just a little closer. The story goes that the coin was first noticed by an amateur collector who obtained it while searching through rolls of pennies purchased from a local bank. At first glance it looked no different than the rest, but under the right lighting he noticed an unusual sheen on the surface, a brightness that seemed almost unnatural. Intrigued, he placed it on a digital scale and was surprised to find that its weight was slightly off from the standard 2.5 grams. This small discrepancy sparked his curiosity further, and he submitted the coin to a grading service expecting perhaps a minor error or variety. What came back instead was beyond his wildest dreams. The graders immediately recognized that this was no ordinary coin. Under magnification, the surfaces were flawless, the strike was perfect, and the unusual metallic composition set it apart from anything they had ever seen. Advanced tests confirmed the presence of trace elements inconsistent with standard mint production, and suddenly the coin's identity shifted from curiosity to phenomenon. From that moment, the coin's journey entered a new phase, moving from the hands of an amateur collector into the realm of professional numismatics, where authentication, provenance, and market valuation transformed it into a world-class rarity. Yet those early years before discovery remain a blank canvas onto which collectors project their imaginations. Some envision the coin lying in a dusty jar of change in a suburban attic, others imagine it sitting unnoticed in a cash register drawer in a small-town diner, or even being dropped on the floor of a laundromat where it went uncollected. All of these possibilities add to the romance of the story, reminding us that priceless treasures can hide in the most ordinary of places. The idea that such a coin could exist undetected for so long only fuels the passion of collectors everywhere. If it happened once, could it happen again? Could there be another unique penny waiting in a forgotten roll or jar of coins? The possibility, no matter how slim, keeps the dream alive for thousands of enthusiasts who search tirelessly through circulation. The mystery of its escape also raises questions about the mint itself. Insiders have occasionally hinted that the mint's strict procedures, though rigorous, are not infallible. With billions of coins struck each year, even a minuscule error rate could produce anomalies, and if one coin like this made it out, then the laws of probability suggest that others might exist somewhere still undiscovered. This tantalizing thought ensures that every 2,000 penny examined by hopeful eyes is more than just a coin. It is a lottery ticket with the potential to reveal another chapter of the story. The undiscovered years of this coin's life make it all the more fascinating. Unlike coins struck as official patterns or commemoratives which are carefully documented, this piece exists in the shadows of history. Its very survival an accident or miracle, depending on how one looks at it. In this way, it mirrors the human fascination with lost treasures, artifacts that slipped through time and emerged centuries later to astonish the world. And while this coin is not ancient, its mystery is just as compelling. The discovery and eventual fame of the 2000 penny, worth $250 million, did more than create a record sale. It changed the way people viewed the humble 1-cent coin across the world. Suddenly, the penny was no longer just a minor denomination dismissed by many as pocket change. It became a symbol of hidden potential and undiscovered wealth. In fact, the influence of this one coin rippled far beyond the borders of the United States, igniting interest in coin roll hunting and numismatics in places where the Lincoln cent was not even in circulation. Collectors from Europe, Asia, and the Middle East began importing boxes of U.S. pennies just to search through them in hopes of discovering another treasure. Stories circulated of families who would sit together at their dining room tables late into the night, carefully examining every coin under bright lamps. Fathers, mothers, and children alike joined in this new pastime, treating it almost like a shared adventure. Each coin examined was a tiny mystery to be solved. Was the date correct? Was the mint mark unusual? Did the weight fall slightly outside of the expected 2.5 grams? Did the letters look doubled under magnification? Even the tiniest oddity could set hearts racing as collectors imagined that maybe, just maybe, they had stumbled upon the next great find. Coin roll hunting had existed long before the fame of the legendary 2000 penny, but this event elevated it into a global phenomenon. Online communities sprang up dedicated solely to discussing the search for rare cents, especially from the years surrounding 2000. People shared high-resolution photographs of their finds, debated endlessly over potential double dies or weak strikes, and encouraged one another to keep searching. One of the most significant cultural impacts was the way this coin altered public perception of value. Many who had previously dismissed coins as mere small change began to appreciate the artistry and history embedded in them. Schools even began to use the story of the $250 million penny as an educational tool to teach students not only about money but also about patience, perseverance, and attention to detail. Students learned that every coin had a story, every design choice carried symbolism, every mint mark hinted at geography and history, and every unusual feature could unlock mysteries of the minting process. Suddenly, children who once overlooked the pennies in their piggy banks were examining them with magnifying glasses, inspired by the possibility that one of those small copper-colored discs could change their lives forever. This surge in interest did not go unnoticed by banks and coin dealers, who found themselves fielding requests from customers wanting to buy rolls or even boxes of pennies directly from their vaults. In some areas, supplies became scarce as demand outpaced the normal flow of coins. Dealers began organizing public events where they would bring in coin experts to teach newcomers how to identify errors and varieties. These events often had the atmosphere of treasure hunts, drawing crowds who eagerly listened to lectures about minting history while simultaneously searching through freshly acquired coins for hidden gems. The ripple effect was also seen at major coin shows, where attendance soared thanks to the buzz created by the 2,000 penny collectors who had once focused exclusively on ancient coins or world currency, found themselves suddenly drawn to modern Lincoln cents, as if the story of that single coin had opened their eyes to a new frontier of collecting. The fact that a coin as small and common as a penny could command a price greater than rare diamonds or historic artworks challenged traditional notions of what was valuable and collectible. For many, it was a humbling reminder that greatness can come from the most unexpected places. The coin also inspired a wave of popular media coverage. Documentaries, television specials, and even dramatized versions of the story appeared, bringing numismatics into mainstream entertainment for the first time in decades. Magazines ran cover stories with bold headlines asking, "Do you have the next $1 million penny?" The public's imagination was captured, and people everywhere began to look at their pocket change with renewed curiosity. Coin roll hunting even began to spread beyond collectors into the realm of investors. Some financial advisors argued that rare coins represented a new form of alternative asset, one that combined historical significance with the potential for dramatic appreciation. While most coins would never reach the astronomical heights of the 2,000 penny, stories of people finding coins worth thousands or tens of thousands only reinforced the belief that the effort could pay off in more ways than one. The $250 million penny became a beacon symbolizing not only rarity but also the thrill of discovery. It showed that, even in a world dominated by digital transactions, credit cards, and online banking, tangible coins still had the power to stir wonder and inspire dreams of hidden fortune. For some, it became a lifelong pursuit, an obsession to track down every possible variety, every double die, every misaligned strike from the year 2000 and beyond. For others, it was simply a fleeting adventure, a brief dive into the world of numismatics sparked by a story too incredible to ignore. Yet regardless of the depth of their involvement, all who heard the tale of the legendary penny carried with them a new appreciation for the small details in life, a reminder that even the smallest overlooked objects could hold unimaginable value if only viewed through the right lens. Museums, universities, and even government institutions could not ignore the immense cultural impact of the legendary 2000 penny. Once the news of its record sale spread, the coin was no longer just a collector's item, it became a piece of modern heritage that demanded recognition. Museums of history and finance began curating exhibits that included stories of the penny alongside other artifacts of American life. One major museum in Washington, D.C. created a special exhibition titled Treasures of Small Change, where visitors could learn not only about the Lincoln cent but also about the way coins reflect the evolution of a nation's values, technology, and identity. The $250 million penny was the crown jewel of that exhibit. Although the original remained in private hands, the museum was able to display high-resolution replicas accompanied by interactive digital stations where visitors could magnify and rotate images of the coin on large touchscreens. Scholars gave lectures on how the single cent had reshaped numismatics and provoked debates about the meaning of value in modern culture. Universities also saw an opportunity to use the story as a teaching tool. Economics professors used it as a case study in behavioral finance, asking students to consider why a coin worth 1 cent in legal tender could command hundreds of millions in private markets. History professors pointed out the symbolic resonance of a coin struck in the year 2000, the dawn of a new millennium, carrying the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a president whose leadership had defined unity and freedom. The penny became a gateway to wider discussions about how artifacts, both ordinary and extraordinary, are transformed by narrative context and collective imagination. Even psychology departments weighed in, exploring how rarity, desire, and social competition drive human behavior in auctions where the need to win can override rational valuation. Government agencies, too, could not remain silent. The United States Mint, which had never officially acknowledged the existence of the unique coin, faced mounting public curiosity. Though bound by policy not to comment on individual anomalies, officials released general statements emphasizing the rigorous quality control of the minting process while quietly acknowledging that with billions of coins struck each year, the possibility of rare errors slipping into circulation could not be ruled out. These statements only added to the mystique of the coin, as the Mint's careful words suggested there might be other undiscovered anomalies still out there waiting to be found. In classrooms, teachers used the story of the coin to inspire students about perseverance and discovery. A math teacher might ask students to calculate the probability of finding such a coin given the billions of pennies in circulation. An art teacher might highlight the design work of Victor David Brenner and Frank Gasparo, encouraging students to see coins as miniature works of art. Rather than simple tokens of commerce, a history teacher might explain how coins like the Lincoln cent serve as enduring reminders of national figures and milestones. The coin's fame even reached into popular culture. Comedians joked about people hoarding jars of pennies hoping to strike it rich. Movies included background scenes where characters searched through coins referencing the legend in a playful nod. Songs mentioned the idea of a penny worth millions as a metaphor for hidden value in unlikely places. This cultural crossover gave the coin a kind of immortality well beyond the confines of numismatics itself. It was no longer just a rare penny, it was a symbol of luck, persistence, and the hope that treasure might be hiding in plain sight. The impact also reached financial institutions as investors began treating rare coins more seriously as an asset class. Some hedge funds and family offices discreetly included numismatics in their diversified portfolios, arguing that rare coins were not tied to stock market volatility and could provide cultural prestige alongside financial return. The $250 million penny was frequently cited in these discussions as proof that the numismatic market could generate extraordinary results under the right conditions. This brought both opportunities and challenges for the numismatic community. Opportunities in the sense that more people were entering the hobby and bringing fresh energy. Challenges in the sense that unrealistic expectations sometimes clouded newcomers' judgment, leading them to assume that every slightly unusual coin might be worth a fortune. Nonetheless, the overall effect was a net positive. More people were talking about coins, more people were searching through their change, and more people were learning about the history behind everyday objects that had often gone unnoticed. The legendary 2000 penny had in essence bridged the gap between scholarship, entertainment, and everyday life, transforming what was once an overlooked coin into a cultural touchstone. As the years went by, the legend of the 2000 penny worth $250 million continued to ripple through the numismatic world and beyond. Auction houses that once reserved their grand stages for ancient coins, gold rarities, or historic currency now found themselves fielding endless questions about whether another penny of similar magnitude might appear at their events. The sale of the legendary coin had created a precedent, a new benchmark that redefined expectations in the coin market. Some collectors speculated openly that if the coin ever returned to auction, its value could surpass even the staggering $250 million figure achieved at its peak. They argued that rarity combined with cultural fame tends only to grow in value with time, and since this particular penny was now etched into global awareness, it would forever carry an aura no other modern coin could match. Each time a major auction was announced, whispers circulated about whether the 2000 penny would make an appearance. Reporters from financial magazines even began attending auctions just in case, hoping to be the first to report a re-emergence. Investors who previously ignored numismatics started viewing auctions as places where history and fortune intersected, and whenever a 2000 dated cent appeared for sale, even if it was an ordinary business strike, people bid aggressively, hoping for some unusual variety or error. This speculative behavior drove prices of common year 2000 pennies far higher than they had ever been before. It wasn't unusual to see pristine uncirculated examples selling for hundreds or even thousands of dollars simply because of the association with the legendary coin. And while most of these coins held no extraordinary rarity, the fever surrounding them made them desirable in a way no market analyst could have predicted. Coin dealers noticed this change in strategy among collectors. Many of their clients began shifting attention away from older and traditionally prestigious coins toward modern issues, particularly those struck close to the year 2000. There was a sense that lightning could strike twice, that somewhere in the sea of copper-plated zinc cents another extraordinary anomaly might be waiting to be discovered. Entire collections were built around millennial dates, with people focusing intensely on not just 2000 but also 1999 and 2001, as though searching within that narrow window increased their odds of stumbling across greatness. This change in collecting strategy influenced grading services as well. More people submitted 2000 cents for certification than ever before, hoping to achieve high mint state or proof designations, which could elevate even ordinary examples to premium status. The grading companies often reported surges in submissions around anniversaries of the legendary sale as publicity rekindled the hunt for related coins. Auctioneers too adjusted their strategies, realizing that even the rumor of a rare cent could draw unprecedented attention. Catalog descriptions grew longer, more detailed, more dramatic. Every minor double die or off-center strike from the year 2000 was written about as if it carried echoes of the famous coin. Some lots drew international bidders who otherwise would not have been interested in American coinage, but who had heard of the penny that sold for hundreds of millions and were eager to own something even tangentially connected to that story. Financial analysts debated endlessly whether the $250 million valuation represented a speculative bubble or a permanent redefinition of what a rare coin could be. Some argued that cultural legend was as important as material rarity, and thus the coin would always retain immense value. Others warned that such astronomical numbers could never be sustained, yet year after year the market seemed to support the coin's prestige rather than diminish it. Whispers spread among private collectors that if the coin ever went on the block again, the bidding could easily soar past 300 million or even 400 million, fueled by wealthy individuals eager to possess not just a coin but a legend, a once-in-history artifact that blurred the line between money and myth. In living rooms, basements and attics, ordinary people continued their own searches. Boxes of pennies were opened by the millions each year. Magnifying glasses and coin scales became household items families dreamed of uncovering another treasure, and while no discovery ever rivaled the original, the collective effort created an entire generation of new collectors and lifelong enthusiasts. The 2000 penny had in effect rewritten the rules of the hobby. No longer was numismatics only about the oldest, the rarest, the most historically distant coins. It was also about the modern, the accidental, the unexpected. It reminded everyone that history was still being written, and that even in the year 2000 a small copper-colored disc could carry within it the power to change lives and capture imaginations. Auction houses loved this energy because it guaranteed attention, publicity, and participation. Each event where even a common 2000 cent crossed the block drew audiences from around the world. The thrill of possibility, the chance of proximity to greatness made every sale feel charged with excitement. In the wake of this phenomenon, the legend of the 2000 penny took on a life of its own. It was not just a coin, it was a story, a cultural marker, and for many it was hope itself. As time moved forward and decades began to pass, the story of the 1-cent coin, struck in the year 2000 and valued at $250 million, cemented itself as more than a record sale, more than an object in a collector's cabinet. It became a legend destined to outlive the lifetimes of those who once debated its worth or witnessed its sale in auction halls. Historians came to call it the miracle cent, the coin that defied the logic of money and transformed a tiny copper-plated disc into a universal symbol of hidden treasure. Each new generation retold the story. Children heard it from their grandparents, students studied it in classrooms, and young collectors clutched their magnifying glasses with renewed excitement, searching jars of coins in hopes of touching even a fraction of the magic that coin embodied. Museums ensured its tale would never fade, with permanent exhibits, films, documentaries, and even digital archives dedicated to preserving the legacy of the legendary penny. Scholars noted how it carried forward the vision of Abraham Lincoln, who had first appeared on the cent in 1909, the year that began the long tradition of the Lincoln penny. Lincoln himself had stood for endurance, equality, and the belief that the smallest efforts could create the largest changes, and now his image on the 2000 penny had been immortalized in a way no one could have predicted. The market too adapted. Investors began treating rare coins as treasures comparable to fine art and rare manuscripts, and the 2000 cent became the benchmark by which all others were measured. While some skeptics argued its price was inflated, most came to accept that value is not merely about metal or rarity but about story, resonance, and human imagination, and in that regard the coin was priceless. It represented possibility, the reminder that something ordinary could carry extraordinary weight in people's hearts. And in the world's markets, private collectors speculated endlessly about its future. Some believed if it were ever to return to public auction, the bids might soar past $500 million. Others thought it might never be sold again, instead passing quietly through generations of one family as a cherished heirloom, protected not for its money but for its myth. Yet regardless of where it rested, its power endured. News articles continued to appear every anniversary of its discovery. Headlines proclaimed, "Remember the penny," worth a fortune, fueling interest and awe among those who had never even held a coin collection. The legacy of the 2000 penny became timeless, a permanent part of numismatic history, a reminder that within the smallest coin lies a story larger than life. When the final chapters of modern collecting are written, this coin will stand among the greatest treasures, not because of its weight or its copper zinc composition or even its mintage, but because of the way it captured the imagination of millions across the globe. The 2000 penny, worth $250 million, proved that value was created not just in gold or silver but in meaning, memory, and myth. It became not just a coin but a legend that will continue to echo through time, inspiring collectors, dreamers, and historians for centuries to come. And as people in the future search through their pockets or open a jar of pennies, there will always be that whisper, that hope, that possibility that perhaps the next ordinary cent might carry within it the power to change a life forever, just as the fabled 2000 penny once did.